Hi,
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
It's a good day today. I was happy today. It was the first day I felt like this weight off my shoulders in a long time.
I had a really ragey day. I had a totally opposite experience.
Really? Why?
Yeah,
Why?
isn't that funny? I mean, happy and ragey. I spent a lot of time going through like all of the emotions like cyclically. I don't know. I felt like the whole vibe was so like counter to how I'm actually feeling right now. It was like a weird thing to watch.
Yeah. It was the first day of just not a constant thing of barbs on the TV and just negatives. And
Right. An
that was nice.
opportunity to be joyful, right? For the first time in 5 years, maybe.
Yeah, just not that. I mean, I'm a cynical person. That is my life. My kids became me, which is sad. But it's like, I like happiness. I don't like that constant great.
Anger and fighting and war.
Yeah. And I don't like putting people down. I hate that.
Yeah.
That's my biggest pet peeve.
Yeah.
Arlene, it's funny. It's so funny that you describe yourself that way because I think of you as being like the opposite of, I don't know, you come across as like this sort of hopeful, like sweet, just the opposite of cynical. I would never describe you like, I mean, I don't know you that well.
My kids would tell you that I was terrible. You know, I mean, even when it came to homework and stuff, I was cruel to them. I wasn't. I mean, they survived. They did survive, and we still get along.
So Nick Wright is late, is coming maybe. Laura's coming maybe. Erin's finishing up that CSC municipal task force meeting that we were just in.
And I forgot about that completely.
Well, this one is the not our CSC meeting.
Oh, okay. So when she has to go to.
They've done a spin-off meeting now of different municipalities in the think to collaborate on getting some of this stuff done.
We're gonna beat her dry.
I think it's late. And Mary's coming, but I don't know what time.
We have a quorum when we hit 7 o'clock. So.
With 1 minute.
At 6:59. So wait, so the rule is, Julia, you'll know the answer to this because it keeps confusing me. If there are 4 of us, it's an official meeting no matter where or when it is.
True.
That's how it works?
Wherever we are, yeah.
So that's why
you don't want 4 of us appearing together anywhere. I don't know if we could even go to a party together. It's weird, but I think that's true.
No,
so that's why it has to be
we could go to a party together. An informal social gathering where we're not discussing anything about the town's business is permitted.
Okay.
So I can invite all of you over to my house as long as we don't talk about town business.
Okay.
What about is that the same for a phone call also?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
or
right now.
Zoom.
No.
They don't give you a handbook, guys, when you become the chair, it turns out. So
just ask.
I keep
You've got 2 people there you can talk to, and
I keep I'll just be like, oh wait,
the whole website with all these questions answered.
All right, I have 7. Do you guys have 7?
7.
We have 7.
All right, so I'm officially calling the meeting to order. January 20th, big day, 2021. Who is 7 p.m. Who's here? Arlene, Julia, Bob, David, Ken Panza. Hi. And Ashley. Hi, Ashley. Thank you.
Hi, Ashley.
Again for sitting in with us.
Sure.
I seem to always lose this the connection thing every week. It's terrible. She has to give it to me again.
So Mary was gonna come. I mean, I think she's planning on coming. And I was gonna just let her do her part first, even though it's kind of at the end.
Do you want to do the adopt the agenda?
Oh yeah. Oh God, that stuff is so boring. Oh yeah, you're right. Okay. Did everyone see the agenda?
Yes.
Is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
I move to adopt the agenda as presented.
Second,
Oh, you beat me to it.
And has everyone seen the minutes?
Wait. So we vote? Can we vote?
we vote now.
What is it?
We-
Aye.
Aye.
Oh,
Aye.
hi.
Mary.
Okay, so the motion is adopted.
Yes.
Okay. And did everyone see the minutes
Yes,
from
did.
the last meeting?
Yes.
Yes.
Is there a motion to adopt the
I'll
minute?
motion.
Does anyone want to second that?
I'll second
I'll
that.
second it.
Okay, the minutes
The
are
vote.
adopted.
The vote.
Oh, the vote. Oh, can we do we vote on the adopting the
Vote on
minutes?
Adopt the
approving the
minutes.
minutes. Yeah.
Minutes.
Aye.
Okay. Minutes are adopted.
So
Now, Bob, I should have asked when you did this, but I'll just ask it now. I think we have to wait until, right? The minutes are adopted before we
Yeah,
send them.
I screwed up.
That's
Approved. Approved is the word. That they get approved here.
approved.
They don't get adopted, they get approved.
Oh,
which it says.
The agenda gets adopted, the minutes get approved.
I'm just reading Ashley as she's explaining how it works with the quorum.
Mm.
Okay. So for the next time, we have to send them after the meeting, right? Is that correct?
Yes, they get approved.
Yes,
Yeah.
he has to change the date on it. I mean, change everything on the top to say that it's final.
Okay.
No, not final, just minutes.
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 You're right.
Say
I
final.
used to say final and you used to correct me.
You're right.
No final, right?
Okay. So Arlene, do you have to go if we're going
Yeah.
to
What
let,
I'm gonna do is I'm putting my computer on silent. Sorry, Mary, I
And
cannot.
just
do
in
it.
1 second, you might want to do the correspondence and announcements.
Oh, is there any?
does anyone have any announcements?
No announcements. Did you pick up correspondence or
No.
you need to do that?
Every single time?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
It's right around the corner from your.
I know. I thought it was once a month.
Whatever.
I will check if there's anything of note. I will email you guys. I doubt there's
No,
going to be.
I have a question. I don't know if this is the time to ask it, but do we have to, like some of us, our terms have expired in 2020? Do we have to renominate and revote and all that? Julia,
That
David?
was already taken care of. Anyone who was expiring, they were asked if they wanted to continue. They either said
okay.
yes or no. Then the town approved them as being continuing for another term of 2 years. So
Gotcha.
it's all taken care of. That comes up every December.
Except that I haven't been sworn in yet, so I can't vote. So I'm not part of the
You have to
quorum.
get re-sworn in?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh, wow. Mm, mm.
Me neither.
Ashley, that's correct, isn't it?
I don't think you have to be sworn in every year. I think if you leave the committee and then come back, you have to be re-sworn in, but I can confirm that and email you tomorrow.
Not every year, just when you're reappointed, every other year when you're reappointed, I thought.
I think if you were already on the board though, and it was a reappointment, I don't believe you have to. But I'd have to look. I don't have my book in front of me.
Yeah, if you could just let us know, that would be
Sure.
great.
David, I think you might actually be right because I remember Jackie saying something to me when I had to go get sworn in. Like she was like, every time.
Oh, really? Oh.
But I'm not. But
I
I'm not
don't
sure.
think so because I think they would have been alerting us. I've never had to in the times that anyway. I'm sure Ashley will let us
Yeah,
know.
they would tell you if you needed to be sworn in, probably around the same time you get the ethics forms, which you should be getting within the next couple weeks.
Joy.
Because those you do every year.
Okay. Well, in email correspondence, there was nothing interesting that I haven't sent to you guys already. Except for Mary's email, who now has joined us. Hi.
And I am
Mary.
stepping
Hi,
out.
Arlene. Too
Bye,
bad.
All right,
Please.
Arlene, we'll call. Do you want to call her or text? Oh,
I will text her when
Okay.
when she can come back, right?
yes.
And I will keep this very brief, but happy to be part of you all.
Good to see. So do you, I don't know how much any of us fully understand the question or where our responsibility lies or doesn't lie. You know, I've been reading about it and I'm getting a lot of mixed information about which towns are involved. I would imagine that even if we're not technically involved, we still had the option to comment or not comment. So whatever you want to share with us that would enlighten us a bit would be very much appreciated.
Okay, and I did have a nice chat with Ken around New Year's, I guess. So we discussed Woodstock and Woodstock's role or not. So Bob, hi, I don't think I know you. My name's Mary McNamara, and David, I know you, and Ashley, I don't think we've met, and Julia, it's great to see you.
Hi, Mary.
Hi, I did. I would say that my hope for speaking casually with you all tonight, with the understanding that it's complicated for Arlene, is more informational in order to alert you all to what's going on, and in the most polite and neighborly way, alert you to the fact that it's possible that the options that are being presented in this most current draft environmental impact statement for a permit modification for the Ashokan Reservoir's release protocol, as well as for the use of for alum sulfate in the receiving east of Hudson Kensico Reservoir, impacts all of New York State. It impacts New York City. It impacts the 1 million people who have access to the Catskill, Delaware water system outside of New York City. And then because of your unique, your wonderful position of, and I used to live in Woodstock, so I appreciate that Woodstock is both half in the New York City water supply watershed, in the upper Esopus watershed, and half in the non-New York City water supply watershed in the lower Esopus watershed. So the Beaver Kill and the Little Beaver Kill, as you all know so well, because you've done such great natural resource inventory, flows into the Ashokan Reservoir. The Sawkill is a primary source of water for the lower Esopus corridor. I really am encouraging that there be a awareness of the conversation, and that the stability of the Catskill system for New York City's water supply that passes through the Ashokan Reservoir is, geologically speaking, will be dynamically impacted by climate change. And there will be many changes that will come to that water supply watershed. And there will be a whole cascading of events, impacts due to the climate change impacts. So the storm event that we had on Christmas of this past year was almost equivalent of 7 inches. I might not have my numbers quite correct. Julia's shaking her head in agreement.
I think it was, yeah.
Mary, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Ashley, Erin needs to get let in.
Oh.
Thank you. Sorry.
That's quite all right. And hi, Erin.
Hi. Sorry.
So the storm that happened of 7 inches of rain in the middle of December basically melted all of the snowpack and was one of the 10 largest flooding events on the upper Esopus Creek. It created a huge amount of sediment that was carried into the Ashokan. I don't really want to, unless you are interested, I don't need to go into a lot of detail, but that event happened 9 days after the beginning of the public comment period for the current draft environmental impact statement for the Catskill, alum sulfate speedies permit modification. So it began December 16th and it's open till March 16th. The storm event happened on December 24th, 25th. So if ever there was a horrible time for that storm to happen for the DEP, for New York City DEP, it was December. If ever there was a perfect time for the greater community to understand the strengths and the weaknesses of the permit, of what's being proposed ongoing for operating the Ashokan Reservoir and continuing to have a filtration avoidance determination that they're able to handle sediment in the drinking supply to New York City and to upstate communities. It was highlighted that that approach of using the lower Esopus Creek as the primary way of handling excess turbidity, releasing it from the West Basin and into the lower Esopus, is a good it is a short-term solution, but there's a strong feeling based upon the results of what's happened. It is not an ongoing long-term solution. I was briefly looking at another one of Ken's amazing reports. You seem to make your environmental update reports fun. I actually read them from beginning to end. And part of it was talking about 25 cities who are impacted by sea level rise, by, I forget what the category was, but 25 major cities being impacted by climate change and sea level rise. So we know New York City is directly impacted by sea level rise. What's not as widely discussed is that this beautiful, wonderful, smart, comprehensive approach to beautiful water for New York City is at the moment challenged. 40% of the drinking water supply is challenged by these major erosive causing storm events. In 2010, it happened from a tropical storm. The result was that for 5 months, New York City released into the lower Esopus very turbid water. It was in the West Basin. It spilled a little into the East Basin. So for 5 months, I should remember the date. It was September, October till the end of January. There was highly turbid water released. At the end of that, there was a consent order to stop. The reason I bring that up is that was just a tropical storm. We then had Irene, we had Lee. Sandy did not impact the water supply as much, but there were major events back to back. We then have gone through a 8-9 year period of not having major erosive storm events. I don't know, somebody has a sense of humor in the godly world. So the first major storm event in 9 years happened 9 days after this proposed permit was presented to the public. We've been waiting 10 years for this. So the Woodstock is a good partner to New York City DEP. Woodstock is very active in being a climate smart community. Woodstock is a leader. People know about Woodstock. So I was hoping it would be of interest to the town board, to the advising Woodstock Environmental Commission, to your climate smart community, to be aware of what is and is not being proposed for modifications to the structure of the Ashokan Reservoir. So in this very long draft environmental impact report, there's a section called alternatives. And anyway, that doesn't help you, but it's section 14 of the DEIS that's on the New York State DEC's Ashokan Reservoir DEIS website. And we updated the lower esopus.org website. There's a link there. The alternatives are very briefly reviewed. The structural alternatives are briefly reviewed. The Catskill Aqueduct alternatives are briefly reviewed, and the Kensico Reservoir alternatives are briefly reviewed. And out of this quick assessment that was done in 2006, way before some of these major climate change causing events and floods in New York City, this choice due to a cost benefit analysis was picking releasing into the lower Esopus as the most effective way to meet the EPA's requirement that New York City do a better job of keeping turbidity out of their drinking water if they continue to get a filtration avoidance determination. Again, 50% of, roughly half of Woodstock is in the watershed leading into the Ashokan Reservoir. You receive funding and grants, partnership, technical resources to help keep the quality of the water in the Ashokan good. The work that went on in Mink Hollow is an example of stream management restoration. I did an internship for the stream management program. It's some of the smartest people in the whole nation work in our region. It's magnificent. Arlene works with dedicated people. Sometimes though, major bureaucratic entities need to be pushed to spend money and think in terms of a midterm or longer term vision. For 95 years, 100 years, the Ashokan Reservoir had no release protocol. They didn't need it, they didn't want it. Now they do want it and understand it's the right thing to do, but it's not, there's a strong, it does not appear to be sufficient for handling 40% of New York City's water supply being protected from ongoing climate change events. And so precipitation in winter will continue to be the norm, not the exception. Last year, there was no snowpack filling the Ashokan Reservoir. Last year, melting snow did not fill the Ashokan Reservoir. So sediment causing rain events in the winter when the clay stays suspended a longer time in the reservoir will be more and more the norm. So I respect that this is not directly part of what is impacting you directly, but it is part of the stewardship of what's going on in the region, in the Esopus watershed at large, and in the work that goes on in Woodstock being part of the headwater system. So I went on a touch longer than maybe you wanted me to, but thank you for letting me share that. Yes, Julia?
Question. Thank you for that. That was really helpful. A couple of times you referred to alum sulfate. How does that figure in all of this?
Sorry, so aluminum sulfate, and I know enough science to be dangerous. So aluminum sulfate is a flocculant, and I should have mentioned that earlier. So it's a flocculant. You use it to, when it hits a particle, it turns into like a little puff ball, and then that carries the particle down to the bed of the reservoir or a stream area. So New York State DEC gave special permission to New York City to use flocculant in very special emergency situations in the receiving reservoir called the Kensico Reservoir that's part of the east of Hudson system. Kensico Reservoir is the last reservoir before the water is sent through the aqueducts to New York City.
What kind of particles are they interested in precipitating out of the water? What is it being used for?
Hi, David. It's a clay. It's called colloidal clays. It's part of the glacial clays that are in the Catskill system of the New York City water supply. And I know I'm going over time for your busy meeting. I would think it would be fascinating to have a geologist from the Ashokan Watershed Stream Management Program come and speak to you themselves about what is the nature of the colloidal clays? Why is it that cold temperature keeps those clays suspended longer? So say if it was sand, it would not stay suspended. The colloidal clays have sort of a negative particle charge, so they agitate, keeping each other. Yeah, so.
Mary, hi. This is Erin. I have a question. Sorry, I did come a little bit late, so I apologize if you've already addressed this. But one thing that I'm wondering or concerned about is you've mentioned the turbidity and the sediment in the water is, I assume that this conversation is happening because you're concerned about the habitat.
No, I'm actually concerned about habitat and water supply, and no, I'm actually approaching this as a water supply climate change issue. Sure, of course I care about the habitat, of course I do. I care about the aesthetics, I care about the quality of life of all of us who live near a water body. But my hope of speaking to you all was sort of an emergency talk before the public hearing on February 4th, is that I do believe what's being proposed of just dumping into the lower Sopas is not sufficient to meet the challenges of the 21st century. An early 20th century solution for a 21st century problem is a challenge.
Mary,
Okay.
I'm going to ask the stupid question, probably the most obvious one, but I would love
You're
to.
good with questions, Alex. I love your questions. They always make me think.
I'm curious to know, I mean, I'm assuming that not doing this at all obviously isn't one of the I guess my question is, what are some of the things that people are looking to accomplish with the comments? What is it choosing between some of these alternatives? Is
No.
it asking for something to not be done? I'm curious to know what you guys are thinking of doing and what our options would be.
So that's a good question. So we're not engineers, we're community members. So we're saying, go back to your drawing board. You haven't accomplished addressing the problem in a meaningful way. An example is what happened with the storm in December. They will be releasing turbid water till April. So that's end of December, middle of April. We will be receiving turbid water. That means there's 50% of the water supply in the Ashokan Reservoir that they just want to get rid of as fast as possible. And I don't mean to say they, I mean to say the operators.
So how does that fit into climate change, like the climate smart? I'm sorry, I'm missing the connect there.
Right. And so let me just make sure I answered Alex's question well. So we're saying your permit is based upon a solution to the challenge. Let me try that again. EPA said to New York City Water Supply, you've done a great job at getting bacteria out of the water supply, but you have not done a good job of getting turbidity out of the water supply that impacts your ability to use chlorine in the water supply downstream. In 1998, there was a memorandum of agreement that said, you don't have to build a filtration plant if you create this wonderful water supply protection program. So, sorry, I'm getting sidetracked here. So this whole process began 10, 15 years ago when the federal EPA said to New York City, you still need to limit your amount of use of the flocculant, aluminum sulfate, because aluminum sulfate flocculant has a negative impact to the receiving water body. You cannot solve your turbidity problem by using alum sulfate. You need to come up with other alternatives. The structural alternatives were considered too expensive, like 400 million, but to build a filtration plant would cost billions and billions. The choice that was picked was sending turbid water down the lower Esopus Creek. It helps, but it's not a long-term solution. I'm not asking Woodstock to get in the middle of a argument about the lower Esopus Creek. I'm encouraging you all to be aware that the Ashokan Reservoir, which you are part of the watershed, you're part of the watershed of the Ashokan Reservoir, encourage there to be more respect given to the importance of that reservoir and all the work that goes on in Woodstock to make sure that that water is good, and that structural tweaks, structural changes to the reservoir would serve the region and New York City well if they spend some real money, but it still will be cheaper than spending billions, if not trillions, down the road.
Mm.
So there's a lot of science, and I think it would be interesting to understand it from, have Adam Doan speak, have Danny Davis come and speak to you, have the professionals in the area speak to the science behind the colloidal clays staying suspended in wintertime. And last thing would be, each storm event has caused a larger amount of sediment per event. So 1950s hurricane events, what they caused was less than what was caused a few years ago. So the increased storm events, and maybe Aaron, this helps answer some of your questions, increased storm events have more erosive power, and they're falling on bare earth in the middle of winter. So if we approach it as not a political thing, it's not a my backyard thing, but it's about another aspect of how climate change is impacting our region. Yes.
Right. So we have a deadline here of February 4th, right?
No, that's just that's a public hearing,
Okay.
a Zoom public hearing. You can make comments until March 16th. There's a request being made to extend the comment period because it's been a 10-year process. This came out during COVID, and then on top of COVID, it came out during a major storm event. So there are lots of special scenarios going on right now, but so March 16th at the moment is the final time to make a comment.
And you're encouraging us to research this further and then create a decision letter, or?
I would encourage you to be aware of what's happening. Mm-hmm. If the town in any form would like to write a resolution, would like to ask more questions or encourage citizens to make comments that are, it's always helpful to have educated comments made. If you're just saying no or just saying yes, because it feels good, that doesn't really help encourage. The lead agent on this issue is New York State DEC. So the audience is to encourage the state to ask the city to go back to the drawing board and come up with more options, alternative analyses for structural improvements to handle climate change. It's not the community's problem to choose the right way to go. But it is our responsibility to say to the state and to the city, try harder. So here we go. 2021 is full of lots of excitement. What a wonderful day it was today. So
thank you, Mary.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you for what you all are doing, so
Gave you maybe more work than you were anticipating tonight, but thank you.
I care about it. And Woodstock is where I got my training in waterworks. So I'm happy to have helped. And Ken knows so much. Ken is brilliant. So ask him for help. But I would say reach out to the Ashokan Watershed Stream Management Program and say, what is this about? And you might get more information and you might not, but there's a science behind what's going on, as well as an engineering issue, as well as the environmental side of it, Erin. But okay, I better stop. But thank you. If you have questions, please feel free to email them to me. Alex, you can share my email or something. It's a community issue. It's not territorial. Okay. Best to you all.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Ken, you're the expert. Should we, Julia, do you want to text?
Yeah, I'll text. Yep.
You're back in here.
Okay, gotta go. I gotta go.
Did we lose Erin?
Hello.
Hello.
Is that fun?
Yeah.
We missed you.
Missed that.
Is Erin gone?
Hmm.
Did we lose Erin? Oh boy. Okay.
You're on the list. Looks like she left or got kicked off.
Hmm.
Okay.
She just texted me. She just got booted. She's trying to get back on.
So the next thing, that was very interesting, actually. So we were going to talk a little bit, Julia, I had emailed you about this, but so the planning board is hoping to get together to talk about ways to use the NRI going forward in regards to mapping out some of the critical environmental areas. They want to invite Ingrid and someone from the WEC at some point to...
Not at some point, on April 29th.
Oh, well, that is their workshop meeting. Is that
Right,
when they were saying they wanted someone to be there? Okay,
Yeah.
that was...
Mhm.
But do you think that we should, I know they had it on their agenda for tomorrow to
Right.
begin the discussion. Do you
Right.
think one of us should
Here's
be
what I
there?
think about that. They're going to spend just 10 minutes at every meeting until April 29th.
Okay.
And rather than wade through the entire meeting and just kind of, have to sit there for the whole thing, I'm wondering if maybe I would be happy to do this. I'll get in touch with Melissa Gray and say, we're very interested in this issue. She already knows we are. I've been in touch with her about it. And I would just ask her to give me an update that I could pass along to all of you. Does that sound good? Just what happened in the 10 minutes as opposed to wading through the entire meeting.
Yes, that sounds good.
Okay. And I'll be glad to take that on. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
I know,
Sorry,
like
I got-
Ingrid was really interested also. Ingrid was very excited too, it sounded like.
Yeah, well, it's wonderful that they're doing
Wow.
that. And probably most of you saw the messages about Judy Kerman taking on all of the responsibility for incorporating all of the data from the NRI into their shape files for use by the planning board. And
Good.
I mean, it's really wonderful, excellent work. So
That's
it's
great.
not like we did all that for nothing. No, it's really being used. So it's really cool.
Can't we just listen to the recording and go wade through it ourselves and, you know, fast forward until we get to the part?
Yeah,
point
good
that
idea.
does?
Yeah, there you go. That's a good idea. Sure.
Okay, I always forget these are recorded.
Yeah,
It's-
yeah.
The
Okay.
in-person ones aren't, right? I mean, it's so funny, it's so strange. Okay, so David, do you have anything that you want to talk about with the solar arrays and the community solar? I mean, I know, I sent an email to Bill and Laura about a week and a half ago that she presented yesterday about what kind of our final determination was of the partnership with Solstice. But David and Bob and Nick, I think, have kept digging on this issue. And David reached out to Solar Generation to see what they had to offer, if anything, to the town. David, do you guys have anything you want to report back on that, or jump in, or do you want to?
Yeah, I'll start, and actually, I'd like Bob to jump in. I'm sorry Nick's not here. We got to a point where this is very subjective, and I'm going to just say what it felt like to me. And Bob, that's why I want you to jump in. This is my personal feeling. It felt to me like the subcommittee was just sort of throwing up its hand and saying, well, it has too much of an environmental impact, so let's not do anything. I'm not sure, but I'm not sure where you really feel, how you really feel about this, and I'm not sure how Nick really feels about this, because that's sort of the summary of the last communications that we all had. Where I come out on this is I understand that what we concluded about Solstice was it looked like they were using farmland that was otherwise usable, and it looked like there was nothing, they were not doing anything really local for that, where we could be actually pointing to an array that was in our area, and we were discouraged by the environmental impacts of producing solar panels. And so I reached out to Solar Generation. To be very clear, I have had in the past a commercial relationship with them. They were the ones who installed my solar array before Paul bought the business. So I don't have any relationship with him, any ongoing business relationship or past business relationship with him. He was the person who brought to me and through me to the town the idea of having carport solar arrays at the parking lots. So I've always considered him to be someone who was interested in thinking a little bit beyond, the box that we were in. What I'd like to do, Bob, what I'd like to do is have you and me and Nick continue to explore all the community-supported solar alternatives that are available to the town. I think, from what I understood Paul to be saying, he was using while there were some arrays upstate, most of them were in the area, and most of them were on otherwise not ideal land. They were on non-arable land. They were on ledges that were not usable, and he seemed very open to the idea of using rooftops and parking lots and things like that, which I think the three of us all agree is the best possible place to site a solar array. So, what I'd like to do is continue to explore the alternatives that are available to us from community solar providers who are now available to town residents through Central Hudson and NYSERDA. So, but Bob, that's where I stand. I'd really like to hear where you are on this.
Sure. Yeah, I'm fine with that, David. And I wasn't throwing my hands up as much as I was discouraged. I think you used that word. That's sort of more accurate for me. As I looked into this, as Arlene had mentioned some weeks ago about, the use of open space, and then the cost to manufacture the raw materials and the energy used to make the actual solar cells, it was a bit of an eye opener for me. But having said that, I'll be honest with you, I need to do more research. David, you've done most of it. You've been sort of taking lead. But yeah, I'm perfectly fine with the three of us getting together and talking about it some more. That's fine.
Great. So let's set something up. I'll reach out to Nick and set something up. And
Okay.
just some of the research I've done is, very, very encouraging. Let's call it the energy payback, not the dollar payback of how much it costs to put up an array and how much money you save on your electric bill, but the carbon impact of mining for silica, refining the silica, putting up the steel structures, mining the steel, all that, everything, a soup to nuts impact in terms of greenhouse gas emission. The payback, from what I'm understanding, is now down to 3 years if it's bad and 1 year if it's really good. And there's new technologies coming on board. Like there's a new material, like, damn, of course, being old, I can't remember what it is, but it's there's just so much technology advancing so rapidly that I want us to take a good hard look. And I'm so glad to hear that you're on board with that. And I'll reach out to Nick and the three of us can get together and dig into this further. And I'm going to have a conversation with Paul McNimany tomorrow, just to pick his brain a little bit on where his arrays are, what he thinks the environmental payback cost time is, and all that stuff. So that's where I am, and that's what I have to say. That's our report.
And David, I know I wrote this to you, just to the three of you in your email, but I'll say it now to the group. But to me, when I think of community solar, like I think of the emphasis being on the community, and that, like, are people getting jobs in the community? Are they the ones that are building the technology? Are they the ones that are servicing it? Are they the one, like, who's benefiting? Is our community benefiting in general? And so I agreed actually that, one of the problems with Solstice is that it was kind of like this faraway entity. They're getting something out of it. Yes, in the big scheme of things, maybe there's sort of an environmental overall benefit to some extent, potentially. But it's not a community project. I know there's also a company in Rhinebeck that's called Sun Common. I don't know a ton about them, but I've heard from a few people that they are like really involved in sort of the local community there. They work with, helping get kids internships into like learning the new techs. They are giving back a lot to the community in a lot of ways besides just building solar panels. So I guess my ask for you guys is maybe to take those things into consideration when you're looking into what some of our options are, is to think about beyond just like, where is it being sited? How much is it going to cost? But how do we make this a benefit for everyone here? How do we, make it that someone's getting a job, or that someone's getting their energy savings so that they can afford their bills? Like, how else does it benefit the community? And I think that's to me personally, I don't want to speak for everyone. Like, I would like to know those answers also, and have that be a priority when we're choosing how we go forward with that, as opposed to just going with like the big company somewhere else that we don't know.
Understood.
What happened?
Well put. Understood.
Yeah, I totally agree with you with Bob on that. I sent around a list of questions that I think it was just to Bob and Nick, and maybe I copied you as well, about the questions we should be asking community solar providers. And certainly that whole idea of what benefit are you providing to the community in terms of employment? Are you hiring local people? All that stuff are excellent questions, and let's work on crafting them. My goal right now is the three of us come up with a set of really good, we do some investigative work, and we come up with a series of questions to put to the people we think make the first cut.
All right, thanks, guys. Erin, anything about the resiliency planning tool? I know we just saw Melinda. Oh,
She's on mute.
are you frozen?
I think she's frozen, or she had a stroke. I'm not
Oh
sure.
boy,
She's
wait,
very frozen. Or she's posing.
Erin, we need you for the next item too.
I'm interested to see that her pronouns are she and her. Good to know.
Erin, you can call in if your computer isn't working. Hopefully.
I'm gonna text her. Oh, she's gone. Maybe she'll come back. We need you. Nick's not here, so I think the brochure we're not gonna talk about today. And then Climate Smart, hopefully Erin gets back on here.
So a question for you all is, I'm wondering how the Climate Smart Resiliency Planning Tool is related or not to the Climate Action Plan. Do we have a sense of that?
What tool are you talking about?
The Climate Smart Resiliency Planning Tool, you know, the one that we're committed to pursuing through the CSC. How is that related or not to developing a climate action plan?
Well, it's probably not really, I don't know.
Not at all?
It's part of the resiliency planning under Pledge Element 7. What it has to do with the climate action plan. I mean, it depends what the climate action plan is that the town develops.
Right.
Julia, from what I understand from like reading all of that, I mean, I'm making my way through. When you do the climate action plan, I think we could choose what we want that to entail. So we could make it be mitigation and adaptation. We could have it be mitigation. We could have it be government only, municipal operations action plan. It could be community action plan. So part of that is up to what we want it to be.
Right. So the Climate Smart Resiliency Planning Tool could be a subset of our overall climate action plan. Is that fair to say, or?
Sounds like
I mean, it would sort of be like, here's what we want to do to prevent this, and here's what we're going to do because it's, when it gets here.
Right.
I think that
action plan is sort of a broad-based, what's the town going to do about to prepare for the change in the climate? That could be preparing for flooding, that could be, reducing solar inputs, or, I mean, you have the full range of things you could include or exclude.
Here's Erin.
Sorry, I keep losing my connection.
Erin, we were just talking about the connections between or not the resiliency planning tool and the climate action plan.
I think there's definitely going to be overlap with the I can't really think of anything off the top of my head, and I apologize. But I think there's some smaller actions that there definitely, I think it's going to be overlap.
Is there anything about the resiliency planning? Is there anything going on since the last meeting that?
Well, the manual part of the tool is done, which basically means that Brent got as far as he could with the documents that we supplied them. The next step is a meeting, which they've already reached out to Bill, Mike Reynolds, Ellen. So now it takes like a meeting of those minds to engage with the tool, the next steps. So I'm a little bit concerned that we're gonna get full cooperation from everybody, but I guess that's what I'll try, I'm gonna try and corral everybody. But ultimately when the resiliency tool is completed, it's going to be a tool that the town highway can use, that we can use. So I think if I explain it in a way, or maybe remind them that it really is going to help us down the road, that we'll get more buy-in to it. And sorry, to answer your first question, so I think the resiliency tool will help us with the climate action plan, because the climate action plan will say, okay, we need to do this, this, and that. And the resiliency tool is going to give us the information we need to make good decisions, I think, in the climate action plan.
Erin, is there anything that any one of us or all of us could do to help you with the task of making sure that that everyone from town is on board with talking to them and pushing that forward?
Well, one thing I did put out there to Melinda Herzog, she's kind of running it from Cornell Cooperative, is I thought it would be good if another person like from the Environmental Commission attended in addition to me, attended the resiliency tool meetings and whatnot. I don't think it's going to be as large as a project as the NRI. I don't think it's going to take a year. They said a couple of months, but since I'm really looking at it primarily from Climate Smart, I think it might be good to have somebody else from this group look at it from, you know, maybe in the comprehensive plan as well as the climate action plan, ...
What are the meetings?
There's just one meeting set up now, so I don't know what how they're going to be, the frequency or anything, but I can let you guys know when that happens. I don't need an answer tonight, but from anyone on the board, but I just thought I'd put that out there.
Okay. Yes, David doesn't want to do it.
I like what David just did.
And then
We
Erin,
were noting that you're she and her, Erin.
Oh, that's actually a very, that's very like important to a lot of people in transgender communities. to
Gender,
put
yeah,
that there.
fluidity
It's
and
very,
all that, yeah.
yeah, it's actually a very respectful.
So I guess maybe David isn't appearing on video anymore because he's transitioning, do you think? That's it? We don't really know.
No, I think David's paranoid about face recognition
Oh.
software.
So, I mean, I know that some of the rioters in the Capitol on the 6th have finally figured out the downside of having your face plastered all over social media.
Yeah.
I figured that out a long time ago, and I don't have any interest in being added to the list of people who can be recognized easily. Not that I'm planning to do any rioting or anything like that, but still, you never
Kind
know.
of sounds like it, David. Kind of sounds like it.
Yeah, well,
we won't, don't worry, we won't turn you in.
I take it she, her.
So Erin, so I guess the next thing maybe we should talk about, I mean, if you have a climate smart update you want to give broadly, and then we can go into the climate action plan, which I guess is going to be our big project. I'm excited, guys. It's a big one.
Yeah, well, we're focusing on resiliency and the climate action plan. So I'm actually going to let you just go straight into the climate action plan. So, and I have to apologize. I'm getting warnings at my internet connection. I apologize if I go off again. I'll just keep, sorry.
So Erin and I discussed, we've been talking about the overlap between the Climate Smart Task Force and the WEC, because there is obviously a lot. We talked about having this group do the climate action plan, similar to how we kind of did the NRI, which was that it was kind of out of the WEC, but it went towards the Climate Smart task force. It also kind of covers, I was very excited for us to come up with some longer term goals. I think everyone was kind of excited about that. This also basically encompasses all of those things, because what we're going to have to do is think about what our plan is going to be for the next 10 years and then figure out how we're going to implement it. It's something that takes a lot of community input, which is the annoying part. If you think like I do. But Erin the other day said something to me that I thought was so smart, which was that, there are so many people who have been moving up here or coming up here that now we have this whole town full of people with skill sets that we might not possess, or knowledge that we might not possess. And reaching out into the community for something like this kind of allows us to potentially tap into some of those skill sets, more so than, maybe we can. So that is where I suppose involving everyone becomes a benefit. But Erin, I was going to try to speak to the chair of the, whatever they call the WEC in Red Hook, because she kind of spearheaded the one that I sent out to you guys. And I was going to try to pick her brain a little bit. one of the things we're going to have to try to figure out is if we want to try to get some funding, some grant funding, and how we're going to do that. Tonight at the municipal task force meeting, they talked about using BARD, using BARD students for some of this stuff because they're brilliant.
They have a graduate school that does this stuff.
Yeah, and so they've done a lot of, I think they did a lot of the Red Hook.
Yeah, they had a student that.
They all live in Red Hook, that's why.
Well, it was Red Hook and Tivoli.
They live in Tivoli or Red
Yeah.
Hook.
So,
Yeah, Laura Houston is the BARD
yeah.
manager.
Ken, don't you teach a class like at BARD, or aren't you heavily involved there? Maybe you could get us connected with a professor that might have some students that would be interested in helping us for college credit, ...
Isn't Ken the professor?
I can never get a straight answer out of him. Ken,
What? No.
are you a professor?
No, I'm not a professor.
Are you an adjunct?
I'm organizing a class on the CLCPA for the BARD, the Geezer program over at BARD.
They have a program for people over the age of 60, is it? Or 50?
Well, I don't think there's any age limit, but
I think they do.
everyone is retired and traveling the world, or were traveling the world.
But they do have a program where you can take classes when you're over a certain age, and a lot of people do it, particularly on the other side of the river. They take weekly classes. They offer a really good selection. But there is a graduate program that's environmental studies, which is why everybody uses them. They have a really good program.
Ken, when we spoke to you last at the CSC meeting, you expressed an opinion that we should not think about getting grant money.
Well, I think you have to work at, you decide, it was the comprehensive plan people came in and they told the Environmental Commission, you need to get grants. And once you identify the grants, then you know what your program is, because you just do what the grant writers want. And I said, that's backwards.
Yeah,
Decide what it is you want to do, then you go look for a grant to fund it.
that's right.
So the focus should be on, like you just said, we want to do a climate action plan. Let's go find a grant to do that. Not go look for a grant and say, well, this is what the grant writer wants us to do, so we'll do what they want to do.
Okay, so you're not anti-grant.
There was Kirk and Grace said specifically, your program is driven by what grant writers want. That's what they recommended the WEC should do. And I said that was the worst advice I've ever heard.
But so you don't think it's a bad idea if we're I mean, you're not anti-grant. Sorry, you explained.
No, we're not anti-grant, but the grant, you should have you should know what you're looking for a grant to do.
Okay.
Define the objective, then go find the money. A lot of organizations work the other way around. A big grant, a lot of money is announced for some program. All of a sudden, they're applying for that, even though they have no experience with that program.
As my philosophy professor put it, Ken is saying, don't put Descartes before Horace.
Ha ha.
I mean, Erin, have you made any headway with any of that stuff at all?
Honestly, I haven't connected with a person, no, but I feel like I'm looking in the right spot now. I'm not looking at Grants Gateway anymore, which that's just, leave it alone. So it's been about a week, but I have had other things come up in my, So,
and I'm trying to get in touch with a few people from some of the other towns that have done this, because they all ended up hiring a consultant.
Vern still hasn't called me back or emailed me.
No, I saw him 2 days ago and I told him face to face, you need to email us, and he's not doing it. So if anyone else has any leads on any of that, feel free to speak up at any time.
One question that Judith asked about the, she was looking for some GIS help. You know, that might be a source to go to BARD for, because they have a GIS program and they're, you know, there's students over there working on GIS.
That's
That
fine.
reminds me, I have a quick question about that. That software, do we have it? Judith was asking me.
Do we have it? Yeah.
She said it's like $100 to get a license a
Yeah,
year.
Jerry gave me one for Christmas. I haven't opened it yet, so I have no idea how to use it.
Okay,
You
well,
you
let
get
me-
online for the ARCGIS and you
Okay.
can get some sort of temporary license for it, just to get in there and play around with it. And then if you really want to use it, you get a license,
I
Well, the
see.
town has a license. You can use the town system.
right?
And
Okay.
Erin, what did you think about what they were talking about earlier this evening about the county greenhouse? Do we want to try to have newer greenhouse gas inventory than the data that Ken sent us?
Well, I think, so what they were talking about was the community greenhouse gas inventory, whereas we've got the government, but the government greenhouse, you know, the town is, government is the town buildings.
No,
And
didn't
they-
Ken send us all that data from like 2010 or something that was of all of the different communities?
No, it's more current than that. Ken actually stays up to date on it. Ken, do you want to speak? It's like as of this, I think 2020, he just is finished. Ken?
I'm not sure I understand the questions. What I sent you is the community greenhouse gas emissions,
Community.
the 2010. There's no update to it.
Oh, what's the one that you just sent me recently? Do you do the government every year?
Yeah, we do the government every year.
Oh, okay.
And
So,
I just updated that and uploaded it to the website.
okay, so I'm sorry, I got confused there, Alex. So Ken, the last community you did was 2010.
The last community that's available, which was done by the Mid-Hudson Regional's Climate Regional Center, is 2010. That's the one everyone's been based off of.
Okay. The only thing that the only thing, Alex, about what they were saying, it seemed like Europa said that they were not going to be able to drill down to municipality on it when they do it. It's just going to be Ulster County when they do their community greenhouse, which I thought may not really benefit us.
I couldn't understand what she was saying because then it sounded like the next sentence she said was like, but you'll be able to, like, it sounded like somehow she was saying, oh, but you guys should get in touch with us because, you know, if you get this one program, you'll be able to use that data to find your data. Did they?
Yeah, maybe I can look into it more, but yeah, I was unsure of that.
I guess one of the questions will just be, do we want to use 2010 data or do we want to have newer data?
Well, and she was suggesting that everybody used the same year, 2018, which I thought was a good idea. So like Red Hook uses that, we use that. So then you can kind of really see maybe was one town, you know, having high or low greenhouse gas emissions and why, and was one doing it better and why. So I liked that idea. And the year that they're using is 2018. Ken, what would be involved in us getting a community greenhouse gas thing for 2018? Because apparently you can turn that out in like a half an hour in your head or something.
I can't do anything with community beyond what the regional center did. I have the the governmental. You gotta keep this straight. You keep getting me confused.
Tomato, tomato.
I have
All
no
right,
idea
okay.
what you guys are talking about, with your meeting with Europa. I mean, you got to sort that out with her.
All right. So you can't help us with you can't help us with community greenhouse gas is what you're saying.
No,
2010.
I mean, I didn't, I'm just finding the documents which are on the website and sending them to you.
Okay. All right.
Actually, you got to look at it because that's what all the other towns were using. And I have no idea what Europa is talking about, or what the 2018 or the community greenhouse gas emissions, or what it is you're involved in.
Okay. Well,
so it's hard to answer questions without knowing the basics. But what we have is 2010 for the community, and we have through 2019 we have 10 years of it for the governmental.
So I think the things we have to figure out for the first steps of the climate action plan are, do we want it to be just community climate action plan? Do we want it to be just a government operations climate action plan, or do we want it to be both? Because you can do it either way.
Well,
And
I
when
think
do we want to use data from? And how are we going to get money to hire someone to help us with all this?
that to answer the first one, sorry, I just kind of jumped right in there. It's a community action plan, so it has to be like community wide. That's the requirement of it.
For the points.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
No, because one of the things, that I was reading was saying, like, you can do one, some of them just have one thing, some of them have both, some of them do. You can make it be as involved or not involved as you want, I suppose.
Okay.
But from the viewpoint, I mean, the WEC back in 2007 put in place a governmental climate action plan. And that's what we've been working on for the last 10, 15 years. So we have a governmental action plan, which has not been documented for the CSC, but we have a governmental action plan, which we're at the end of. Meaning we're at the technology end of that plan. That was the document I sent out back in, I presented that to the town board back in December 2018.
Okay.
Now,
And it's finished now. I mean, we've hit all of the marks for that.
Well, that was before we even signed up for the CSE program. So the WEC could go back and look at that and say, well, here's what else we could do. Or
Okay.
not.
Aaron, how was Aaron went the other night to watch the unfurling of the Kingston Climate Action Plan, because when you first start doing it, you have to kind of let everyone know that you're doing it and ask for input. How was that? Was it helpful at all to see that?
I think it was, honestly, it's felt very preliminary. I didn't get a lot of detail out of it yet. And since then I got an email where they wanted to see a survey answered. So maybe it's a little bit too much in the infant stage, but me personally, it's hard for me to say at this point.
Yeah. And it
I
seems
watched
like
the
their goal
video.
is 2030, right?
Video of it. And
Yeah.
all they're doing is promoting community choice aggregation, beginning and end. That's their climate action plan.
Well, Ken, too bad you weren't on the call. You could have saved us a lot of time.
On what phone? On what call? I mean, that's all they're doing is, you look at the list of people that are their advisory committee, and half of them are selling solar panels and community action.
All right.
The consultant recommended, and so that's where they're going.
I mean, the Red Hook one was pretty comprehensive. It involved like solid waste management and, like at farm, agricultural management.
Well, the Kingston one from 10 years ago is pretty comprehensive too, but what they're doing now is just putting together a proposal for community choice aggregation.
What if we go back to the comprehensive plan, which was more recently done and is more relative, and we kind of say, what actions do we want to add to the community action plan that come out of the comprehensive plan, maybe?
You've already tried that 3 times.
Stop it, Ken.
Well, I mean,
God, you're Debbie Downer. Well, let's try it a 4th time and maybe we'll make it stick.
well, have it.
Well, we don't have obviously a consultant here yet, and maybe we won't, but do we want to try to think of what we want to, I think the first thing, aside from deciding how comprehensive we want our action plan to be, sorry, I have a kid crying. I don't know if you can hear them crying. What we want it to accomplish, right?
I would suggest, maybe going, like the Red Hook plan and the Kingston plan and was the other one from Beacon, going through those and picking and choosing, say, hey, this is a good idea, this doesn't apply to us. I mean, these are $50,000 consulting contracts, and you might as well pick something out of it that makes sense rather than trying to start from scratch.
Sounds
Yeah,
good.
but we should decide which of those things we would like to try to
Exactly.
accomplish. Yeah.
But as a group, you probably have to read them and discuss them, and sort of like a book club on these comprehensive plans to come to some agreement of what's important to Woodstock.
I would be willing to volunteer looking at Red Hook, and if anybody else wants to, they can. I'm not saying I have to be the only person.
No,
I would volunteer.
I'd be
By the
happy to
next
look at
WEC
them too,
meeting,
come up
I'll
with
look at
ideas.
I'll look at Red Hook and I'll come to the next WEC meeting with a couple ideas. Is that a good step forward?
To come over and
Do we have
zoom
Red
in
Hook?
on us.
Did you send
Yeah,
it?
Yeah, I sent it to you guys today. You might have already had it from another email also,
Okay.
from Erin. But I think we have, I'm gonna look in my Google Drives because I think we also got a couple other ones at the last CSC, like that Ulster. She sent, like, I think Manna sent a few of them. So
Maybe
I'll find
Beacon?
whichever ones I have and resend them to everyone. If you want to go through them.
yeah.
Some of it's really, like, the first 15 pages, I feel like of all of them you can skip because it's just talking about themselves and, the highlights of their town.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay.
You could just cut and paste a lot of these,
Mhm.
just add a Woodstock section and have it pretty much.
Isn't that plagiarism? Aren't you a teacher?
When it's the environment, I think it's okay, maybe.
Okay.
Where do you think they got it? You think this was all original work?
Right.
Talk about, the flooding and the temperature changes and all.
Okay, and then I guess we'll circle back. I guess we should circle back for a minute to Mary's presentation and just talk about if we want to go forward. Arlene, do you have to bounce for that, or?
No, can I make a suggestion though?
Yeah.
Mary's side, you might want to talk to somebody from DEP about why they're doing the releases and the whole history of it.
Well, I think the first question is just, do we want to go forward with this in any capacity, was what my first question was going to be. Erin?
I feel like, here I go, talking again. This whole, the release into the Esopus, I know a lot of people in the fishing community locally, and this is a real hot spot for them and I was really shocked. I mean, I came to the meeting a little late, but I was shocked that Mary wasn't concerned, like her take wasn't about the environment, because that, for me, it's about the habitat and the environment, because it is so destructive when they do the releases. And I feel like that's something the WEC could get behind, because it has to do with the life in the, the habitat, the streams, the shorelines of the streams, So for me, I think I would like to look into it. I like to have, like Arlene said, someone from DEP come. I would love to reach out. Me personally, I'll reach out to Adam Doan from
That's exactly
DEC.
what I was going to suggest.
Yeah, and I'll volunteer to ask him to come and talk to us about it.
Yeah.
He's with DEC.
Who
Who would you recommend from DEP, Arlene?
Let me get back to you on that.
Okay, and I'm sorry, I just said, okay, Alex has stepped away. I just said my take. I definitely feel like we could get behind this and it would be legitimate. The majority of Woodstock would be I'm a thumbs up for it, for at least looking into it more.
You're right, from the environmental standpoint, what's the point of our getting involved for political or other social or other reasons? It's crazy. It has to be the environment, or we shouldn't do it,
I agree. Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Guys, I'm so sorry. Will you repeat what you just said, Julia?
Yeah,
I
sure.
have two
So
screaming
to the degree
children
that we get in, to the degree that we get involved with this, it will be for from the environmental standpoint, not any other standpoint.
Yeah.
Our remit is environment. So.
Okay, Erin, do you want to reach out and see if someone can come to the next?
Yeah, why don't, Arlene, why don't you and I
Anything?
coordinate, or
Yeah.
yeah, or I'm sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spotlight, Arlene. Yes, I will see if Adam Joan can come. Sorry.
Okay, and I'll try to get you a name of somebody. There's a press guy at DEP. I just want to make sure he's the right guy that you could talk to, and you could reach out to him, and you could even say that I'm in this committee, but I can't participate. You
All
know,
right.
'cause I just can't.
All right.
They'll kill me. They
Um,
won't, but they will.
okay. And then also, I mean, DEC, DEP, and also it'd be interesting to get some kind of Fisher or Catskill Waters or something.
Well,
I reached out to Jeremy at Riverkeeper, who is said he's going to try to think of someone that he thinks would be the most appropriate, you know, because I know they do a lot of work on this issue. Riverkeeper.
the releases are because of things that we have to do according to our FAD, our filtration avoidance determination, and all. This is general stuff, I'm just telling you. I mean, it's like they're not releasing on a regular basis. We release when we have to because we don't want to pollute the water down in the city and create problems with the water that we're holding up here as well. But they've really been working on this, and that's why I think, and DOH, which is they watch over us, believe it or not, Department of Health. They've worked with the city and DEC to come up with this plan, which I think is what she's talking about, and that's what's being worked on right now, to change the numbers a little bit.
Is this, can I ask you, Arlene, I mean, I'm asking for just a general, and again, I came into it late. Is this basically just like a public comment because they have to renew some kind of permit or license with the state? Is that what this
They're
is?
not renewing, they're changing.
They're changing, okay.
They're changing.
Sorry?
So it's a little bit more than renewing. They're changing the numbers.
Oh, okay.
It sounded like from what I read that I guess the last time they did it, there was quite an uproar and controversy, and that they're hoping to not repeat an uproar and controversy.
They've been much more above board. Like when they release now, again, I just know these things, but when they release now, they let people know about it in advance as much as they can. Sometimes they can't. If we have a rain event, which is massive, they've got to let go of some of the water, or we have some severe problems. And somebody's going to get affected by that because the water's going to go down and it's going to wash out areas, and nobody's going to get flooded, but it's going to affect the fish and it's going to affect things. You have to weigh it.
I know.
I want to get somebody from DEP to talk to you. And you still might say you're full of crap, and you'd have the right to do that. I just can't be there with you saying you're full of crap.
Right.
So in terms of logistics then, and David and I don't know, you guys all have been doing this longer than me. Do we want to learn more about this ourselves and then decide if we even want to bring in, I mean, Laura's not here tonight, so we don't know if the town is even interested in, I don't know what their viewpoint is about this. Do we want to put it in the energy of doing all the research ourselves and come up with a strong plan and then bring it to them? Do we want to find out from her if they're even considering it and then go from there? What, you guys know them better, like what do you think?
It would be some sort of resolution, I think, is what Mary was proposing. We would go through a lot of research that kind of takes us away from the other things we're trying to do. Right. It's one of these things that comes over the transom that we have to respond to, or not, actually. I mean, if we're taking a leadership position, I guess we should have an opinion about it. But
what if instead of a resolution, we just submitted a recommendation to the town board?
To do what?
To either, I guess, a recommendation to pass a resolution about it.
No.
They'd ask you for a resolution to pass.
Yeah, I think if we're going to recommend anything, it has to be a fully formed resolution. Yeah.
I mean, if you want the town board to do something, you're going to have to give them a resolution to approve.
Right.
So do we want to decide if we want to go through this process and then go through it? Do we want to do some of the research first and then decide if we want to take it on at all? Do we want to check in with Laura and them and see if they're even on the page of thinking about this?
I think if we determine that there's, Julia said this, an environmental impact, then maybe we can consider taking a position or passing a resolution to the board to submit a comment during the public comment period on DEIS. That's what I think.
I agree with all of the above, and I think our next step ought to be to have someone from DEP
Yeah.
here and talk to us and let us grill him. So that's going to, the grilling part is going to require us to do some research and have some thinking, do some actual thinking.
So let's spend the next couple of weeks looking into this before our next meeting. I know it's a little sciencey, but I feel like we've done harder.
They've got a lot of material they can give you. If they can't come talk to you, they can send you material. I know they can do that.
Okay. I like Bob's, I like that plan where we dip our toe in the water and then say, do we want to jump in or not?
Mhm.
And we can't take on everything.
Right.
You seem to be doing that a lot lately. I like that.
Well, I think that some of this stuff that we're going to be doing, I mean, if we're going to do the climate action, the plan, because of what we're going to need to do it, we're probably not going to be doing too much of that lifting in the next couple of weeks. You know, like it's going to be a little bit of a slower burn, I would imagine, to get that going. So we could probably take some time to look into this because we have a limited time anyway. It's next month, right? Is for March.
Yeah, till 3/16.
Okay. Do your homework.
So Ashley had sent a message to us all saying that she got in touch with Bill and he said, you do need to get sworn in again every year you are reappointed.
Oh, shoot.
Oh boy. So some of you were not even supposed to vote tonight.
David, you and me.
Breaking the law, breaking the law.
Good thing David's face isn't on the feed for anyone to know who it is.
Yeah.
They're coming for you, David. They're coming
Damn
for you.
right. Oh no, they're not. I got my first vaccination today, and
Really?
I wore a
Where?
tinfoil hat. I wore a tinfoil hat and I kept it on for a while because I want to be protected against the microchip, and that'll protect me against this upload of the photograph. So okay, yeah, we'll play over it. Just what Jeremy once advised me in a situation like this is ignore it. We'll get sworn in, pretend it never happened, because what his theory was, this is a small, cohesive board. No one's gonna, Ken, are you gonna be okay with this? Because you're the only
I'm
one.
actually a member of the board, just like everyone else.
Okay.
Wait, why are we acting like we were tampering with the voting machines? It's like, did the minutes get approved? Like,
Well,
it's on YouTube from last week. You can't lie about the minutes. Someone can just watch it. Like, who cares? We're fine.
Well,
But
wait, did
David-
you guys have a quorum? Because I came to the meeting late. So you had a
Yeah, we
quorum
had a
with
quorum.
Julia, Bob, and Alex,
Well,
right? You had
Not a
voted
legal
today.
quorum, not a legal one, but we had a quorum.
Yeah,
All
the
right.
quorum.
All right.
David, so is your arm swollen to the size of a pumpkin or what?
just where the chip went in.
Yeah, right. No, seriously, did you have the vaccination?
Yeah, I had the vaccination today. I got next one's in 4 weeks, and
But any swelling or anything at all?
take a look. I can't see. I'll look tonight.
Which one did you get?
The Fauci's, Moderna.
Moderna. Hmm.
The Bill Gates one.
No, that Fauci's. Fauci.
All right. Anything else anyone wants to bring up before we see each other on February 3rd? All right.
Done.
Officially done, guys. 8:25 p.m. Thank
Hasta la
you.
vista, babies. Good to see you all.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Good night.
Good
Right.
night.